Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy.
Most teams prefer to dictate the tempo and style of a game, no matter the sport. It could be baseball, it could be basketball, it could be football, whatever. Golf, tennis. You're trying to play the game at your pace. You're trying to dictate to your opponent how the game's going to go. And LSU is going to do that every time this team takes the field. You cannot play this team in a low-scoring football game. It's going to be a shootout the second LSU comes out of the tunnel because the defense does not stop anybody, and this offense is cooking. And as I was sitting in the stands on Saturday, sitting in the stadium on Saturday, I was brought back to the Leonard Fournette-Auburn game in 2015 when he had that ridiculous day full of highlight-worthy plays. And it almost got to the point where you weren't even watching the game anymore. You were watching the player. Does that make sense? When Jayden Daniels was ripping off those highlight reel plays, whether it's the long touchdown runs that he had, the deep ball to Brian Thomas, whichever, it almost felt like you were there to watch the player instead of worrying about what the score was. Now, of course, that's an exaggeration. The point of going out there is to win. But he so far and away stole the show on Saturday night that it just brought back memories of that Fournette day. Yeah, we had a tight game in the third quarter and into the fourth quarter, and LSU had to keep scoring because Florida continued to score. At one point, they scored 3 touchdowns out of 4 drives in the second half. But it was just the Jayden Daniels show. Twitter was abuzz. The stadium was abuzz. And it wasn't just statistically what he did. It was the way in which he racked up those statistics, which was so eye-catching. You just don't see quarterbacks take off on 85-yard touchdown runs. That doesn't happen. Safety's got an angle on him and can't catch him. And then he ripped off a 50-yard touchdown run, weaving through defenders, gliding effortlessly, twisting guys around, leaving them in the dust, erasing angles. Just remarkable stuff. And then after he's ripped off these 2 highlight reel runs, he drops back and chucks a bomb to Brian Thomas for a touchdown. And he's not playing an FCS team. He's not playing some directional school. This is the University of Florida. They've got some pretty good athletes over there. They looked feckless against him. In the game, Jayden Daniels, by now you know, 372 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. That's a brilliant day on its own. And then 234 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. That's a brilliant day on his own. He had 2 brilliant games in one. And I was prepared to get in this chair and start banging the table for Jayden Daniels to get more respect to win the Heisman Trophy. That's what I was prepared to do as I was watching the game on Saturday. But what's come pretty apparent to me over the last 48 hours, most people are on board with this. This is not some poor, pitiful LSU. Nobody's paying attention to us. They're dismissing our team because Jayden Daniels and this team has 3 losses. No, I don't think anyone is. Josh Pate says he should win the Heisman Trophy. Dan Katz at Barstool, he should win the Heisman Trophy. You look at, I was listening to an Ole Miss podcast yesterday. Neil McCready says he should win the Heisman Trophy. I think most people are on board with this, and for good reason. He has clearly been the best player in college football this year. As I laid out last week, his game against Ole Miss is better than any game Michael Penix or Bo Nix has played all year, and they lost because LSU can't stop anybody. Jayden Daniels was asked after the game, what about the Heisman Trophy? You obviously care about it. He flashed the Heisman Trophy when he was doing a handshake with Garrett Nussmeier. This was JD5's comment after the game.
I mean, I'll say so. As humbly as possible, but I just give thanks to God and my teammates, because without them, I wouldn't be in this situation.
And that's saying all the right things, but you can tell that it's something that is on his mind, and it should be at this point in the season. And then Jayden Daniels was asked, okay, well, was this your Heisman moment?
You got to control what you can control, and one thing I can control is how I approach each and every week, how I practice and how I play. And then from there, I can make those decisions.
So I wanted to look back, because this is a stat I've been kind of harping on as well. And in the second half of that game, LSU got the ball 5 times, and they scored 5 touchdowns. I mean, it's just absolute clinic in the second half. And they've done that all year. They had 4 drives against Mississippi State in the second half, 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Same exact thing against Arkansas, 4 drives, 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Against Ole Miss, they had 5 drives in the second half, 3 touchdowns. They did punt a couple times. Against Missouri, 3 second-half touchdowns and a field goal. They only punted once. Auburn, 4 drives in the second half, 4 touchdowns. Florida, 5 drives in the second half, 5 touchdowns. Bama was the only team that put up a fight in the second half. LSU had 5 drives in the second half, only had 1 touchdown, and punted a couple times. They had an interception and a turnover on downs, and we know that Garrett Nussmeier had to play the last couple of drives in that game. But even with the Bama game baked in, if you look at in the SEC, LSU has scored on 25 of 33 second-half drives. That is 76% score rate in the second half. 3 out of 4 drives you're scoring. And on touchdowns, they're 22 of 33. That is 67% touchdown rate in the second half of Southeastern Conference games. They have punted 5 times in 33 second-half drives. That is 15% of the time LSU is forced to punt against SEC teams. This offense is just unbelievable. There's just not much you can do. You have a hard time covering Neighbors and Thomas. You have a hard time beating this group up front. I thought the offensive line was great. And these defensive linemen, I feel so bad for them. Not really. But they even if they do beat LSU's offensive line, they can't catch the quarterback. They're not fast enough to run him down. He's so quick and so swift that once he starts running, defensive linemen are out of the play. They can't catch him. I'm not sure what the best way to go about stopping this unit would be. But certainly Florida didn't figure it out. Because in the game, LSU rolled up 701 total yards on 10 yards a play. They averaged 9 yards a rush. Of course, it helps when you rip off an 85-yarder on one play. But to have 337 on the ground and 372 through the air, it's just take whatever you want. And again, it felt like we were watching a show on Saturday, the way that Jayden Daniels played. Just highlight after highlight after highlight. And he looks so calm and so comfortable, and then he's so dynamic, making college athletes look just totally overmatched. I did not think that we would have anybody that made this look as easy as number 9 did 4 years ago. Maybe for the rest of my life. This is pretty close to that. It's pretty close. I mean, 52 points on 700 yards on Saturday. Just absolute child's play with the Florida Gators, and it was an absolute treat to watch. And I believe, as we sit here right now, if they voted for the Heisman Trophy today, he would win. I based on what it sounds like in the national college football arena, I think everyone is on board. Now, you got to go roll up a bunch of stats on Georgia State, and you got to go beat Texas A&M at 11 o'clock in the morning in Tiger Stadium. Can't throw in a dud. By now, you know all the names. You know that last year USC lost 3 games and Caleb Williams won it. You know that RG3's team lost 3 games. You know that Tim Tebow's team lost 4 games. Like, you're aware of the fact that it doesn't exclude you from the Heisman Trophy. Too often, I think they do settle for the best player on the best team. But Jayden Daniels is making this impossible to ignore at this point. And everyone's aware that the defense is awful. And as I said on the postgame show on Saturday, like, I think the defense being awful is helping Jayden Daniels' cause because everyone knows LSU falls out of bed and gives up 40, so you have to go score 45 or 50 to win a game. And that pressure that he plays with every single time he goes out there, I think resonates like, he's doing everything. He's got to shoulder the entire load. And he's pretty well done it, week in and week out.
Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.